You have spent your whole life trying to repair something. And today, I want to offer you a possibility that may unsettle you. What you've been trying to fix was never damaged to begin with. But before that realization can settle, you have to recognize the structure you're inside. Because it is a structure. Refined. Invisible. Flawless in its design. A trap so subtle that every attempt to escape only tightens its grip. The harder you push, the more securely it holds you. There is a question living quietly within you. You've carried it for so long. It feels like part of your breathing. It rests beneath your morning routine. Behind your laughter. Inside every plan you've ever made for one day. And the question whispers this. Why does something still feel off? Not wrong in a dramatic way. Not a disaster. Not a crisis you can point at and declare, there. That's it. It's quieter than that. A low vibration. A subtle tension in the background of your life. A faint dissonance that follows you into every room. You can achieve what you once dreamed of. Build the life you imagined. Arrange everything exactly as planned. And still, there it is. That slight misalignment. As if you and your own existence are walking side by side. But not quite together. And what makes it so frustrating is this. You can't name it. You can't pin it down. The moment you think you've found the source, it dissolves. Like trying to grasp mist with your bare hands. You identify one cause. You address it. And suddenly, the discomfort appears somewhere else. This isn't just another issue among many. It's not something that sits neatly beside bills. Deadlines. Strained conversations. It is deeper. It is the tension beneath all tensions. The quiet sense that you are a temporary awareness inside a fragile body. Moving through a vast existence that did not consult you before you arrived. And will continue without hesitation when you leave. We rarely speak about this directly. We circle it. We distract ourselves from it. We build entire systems around it. Beliefs. Philosophies. Industries. Endless noise. All serving, in one way or another, the same purpose. To avoid looking directly at the raw fact of being here. You appeared. Without explanation. Without consent. Placed into a body you did not design. Into circumstances you did not choose. Surrounded by others who are just as uncertain. But far more practiced at pretending they are not. And from your earliest awareness, a silent question stirred. What is all of this for? No one offered an answer that truly satisfied. So you did what any intelligent being would do. You tried to solve it indirectly. If the discomfort cannot be removed at its source, perhaps it can be managed from the outside. So you look around, you decide the unease must be caused by conditions. By incomplete arrangements. By missing pieces. If I just organize my life correctly, this feeling will disappear. And so begins the endless rearranging. More achievement. More security. More proof. If I reach that level, I'll finally relax. I'll finally feel steady. You work. You strive. You sacrifice. And maybe, you succeed. For a brief moment, there is relief. A lightness. A sense of crossing some invisible line. But then, it returns. Not because you failed. Not because you lost what you gained. But because the target moved. It always moves. It was never fixed in place. And it isn't only about money. It's the relationship that was meant to complete you. But didn't. The new environment that promised belonging. Yet still felt slightly foreign. The career path that was supposed to fill your days with purpose. Yet somehow left the quiet hum intact. Each external change delivered exactly what it promised. And yet, the undercurrent remained. Here is something deeply unsettling about the human mind. Its capacity for worry does not depend on circumstances. Place one person in modest conditions. And another in extraordinary comfort. Both will worry. The themes may differ. The intensity rarely does. One worries about survival. The other obsesses over status. Preservation. Perception. The details shift. The volume stays constant. The mind is not particular about its concerns. It only insists on having them. It is like an engine that refuses to shut off. If one source of fuel disappears, it will find another. You cannot outrun this tension by upgrading your surroundings. Because it was never about the surroundings. The discomfort you've been trying to eliminate was not a flaw in your life. It was a misunderstanding about what you are. It was never about the content. It was about the mechanism creating it. The system generating the noise doesn't care what it produces. It only insists on continuing. And if you're truly listening, that realization is disturbing. Because it suggests that the grand project of reorganizing your outer world, the mission that consumed years, maybe most of your life, was aimed at the wrong destination. Not meaningless, but misplaced. I remember the moment this became undeniable for me. I was seated in a place I once believed was unreachable. Soft lighting. Heavy fabric on the tables. The kind of setting that quietly signals, you've made it. For years I imagined arriving there. I sacrificed sleep, comfort, time, all for that seat. And when I finally sat down, I felt it. The same low vibration. The same formless restlessness. It was identical to the feeling I had during far leaner days, when even basic stability felt uncertain. The surroundings had changed. The numbers in my account had shifted. But the hum remained, but inside my chest, nothing had moved. And that was the moment the illusion cracked. If reaching this place didn't resolve it, perhaps the issue was never about reaching. This is where the intelligent mind turns inward. If the problem isn't out there, you think, then it must be in here. In my thoughts. In the way I interpret life. And surely, that can be corrected. So you begin the internal project. You study. You absorb ideas. You adopt practices. You sit in silence. You train your focus. You repeat hopeful phrases into a mirror. You imagine an improved version of yourself. And to be fair, some of it helps. There are moments of clarity. Moments when the hum quiets. You think, this is it. I've found the formula. But then, something subtle appears. A doubt. A quiet question beneath the progress. Am I truly transforming? Or am I simply refining my performance? Because here's the uncomfortable truth about forced positivity. When you stand before your reflection and declare everything is perfect, there is a small, steady voice inside that knows you're acting. And that voice cannot be silenced through repetition. In fact, the harder you try to suppress it, the stronger it becomes. It's like telling yourself not to imagine a certain image. The effort itself guarantees its return. So you go deeper. You attempt real stillness. And what you discover is not always comforting. Beneath the surface chatter, beneath daily concerns and imagined futures, there is something vast. Something ancient. Uncontrolled. Unimpressed by your strategies. Call it the unconscious. Call it the shadow. Call it whatever helps you face it. The name doesn't matter. What matters is this. It does not obey. You cannot command it into submission. Any more than someone standing at the edge of the sea can command the tide. And at this point, many people seek guidance. A mentor. A counselor. A teacher. Someone who appears to stand outside the maze. There is nothing wrong with that impulse. But notice what often happens next. The teacher says, relax. Stop striving. Release control. And you respond. Excellent. I will try extremely hard to relax. I will work tirelessly at letting go. You turn surrender into a project. You attempt to succeed at non-achievement. Do you feel the tension? Can you sense the loop tightening? Now you've reached something far more unsettling. If your own patterns, your habits of thought, your identity, your conditioning, are generating the suffering, then who is responsible for fixing them? You. The same you. The very structure that produces the friction is asked to eliminate it. The malfunctioning instrument is told to repair itself. The captive becomes both guard and prisoner. And this is the subtle trick of the ego. It says, I recognize that I am the issue. Therefore, I will improve myself. But the I doing the improving is the same I that supposedly requires improvement. It's like asking your eyes to see themselves without a mirror. Like asking your teeth to bite themselves. And yet, we try. We try so earnestly that we divide ourselves in two. There is the higher version. Disciplined, mindful, composed. And there is the lower version. Impulsive, fearful, flawed. We assign them roles. We turn them into opponents. And inside our own mind, a war begins. Control versus desire. Discipline versus instinct. Light versus shadow. An internal battlefield. With no final victory. And we call this struggle growth. I lived inside that battle for years. In the morning, I would sit in silence. Composed, disciplined. Almost purified. By midday, one small irritation would break through. And I would snap. And suddenly I felt like an imposter. Elevated at dawn. Ashamed by noon. And the cycle never stopped. Resolve. Slip. Guilt. Stronger resolve. Another slip. Heavier guilt. I kept assuming the issue was insufficient effort. If only I were more disciplined. More consistent. More serious. It never occurred to me that the effort itself might be generating the collapse. That the tension between the better self and the failing self was not a contest I was losing. It was a contest that could never produce a winner. What if the struggle itself is the source of the pain? What if the split, the division within, is not the cure, but the wound? What if the one striving to improve and the one repeatedly falling short are not two separate beings at all, but one consciousness locked in the impossible task of fighting its own shadow? Across many traditions and schools of thought, there has always been recognition of this stubborn inner force. The part of us that resists control, refuses perfection, refuses obedience. Call it impulse. Call it conditioning. Call it the wild edge of human nature. Every culture has named it in its own language. And no amount of discipline, reflection, or guidance has ever fully erased it. Perhaps it was never meant to be erased. Perhaps the resistance is not a malfunction. Perhaps it is part of the operating system. And when that realization truly settles, not as theory, not as philosophy, but as lived insight, something shifts. You begin to observe experience differently. You notice something fundamental about the structure of reality. Everything you have ever known exists through contrast. You recognize light because there is darkness. You recognize comfort because there has been discomfort. You recognize sound because there is silence. Your entire nervous system operates on polarity. Signal and absence. Tension and release. Yes and no. Without contrast, there is no perception at all. Now consider what we spend our lives attempting to achieve. We want pleasure without pain. Success without failure. Life without loss. We want one side of the coin permanently fixed in place. But that is not merely difficult. It is structurally impossible. A mountain exists because there is a valley. Remove one, and the other disappears. They are not enemies in conflict. They are definitions of each other. And here is the disorienting part. It means the version of progress we chase is built on misunderstanding. You climb higher. You gain more. You reach what once seemed distant. And yet, when you arrive, the horizon has risen with you. You possess more. But your sense of enough expands at the same speed. You achieve more. But the standard recalibrates just as quickly. It feels like forward motion. But the scenery rarely changes. This is not pessimism. It is structure. It is the architecture of experience itself. Once you truly see it, it becomes difficult to believe that the next accomplishment, the next connection, the next breakthrough will permanently tilt existence in your favor. Because balance cannot remain tilted. If it did, it would no longer be balance. Even our pursuit of goodness follows this law. What we call virtue only has meaning against what we call weakness. Order is defined by chaos. Light is visible because of shadow. We spend our lives trying to sit permanently on one end of a seesaw, confused when it inevitably tilts back. But that movement is not failure. It is function. So if external rearranging doesn't resolve it, and internal warfare doesn't resolve it, and striving cannot produce a final victory, what remains? At this point, many attempt one final maneuver. They decide to step out of the game entirely. They hear the teaching. Desire creates suffering. Attachment breeds pain. So the solution seems simple. Stop wanting. Stop grasping. Release. Intellectually, it makes perfect sense. If craving creates tension, eliminate craving. So you try. You attempt not to want. You attempt not to strive. You pursue detachment with intensity. You meditate more fiercely. You let go more aggressively. You chase non-attachment with the same hunger you once chased achievement. And something almost ironic begins to unfold. The harder you try to loosen your grip, the tighter it becomes. The more effort you invest into non-effort, the more effort you expend. It is like trying to fall asleep through sheer concentration. The striving itself keeps you awake. This is the most refined trap. Because it disguises itself as wisdom. It turns your sincerity into the very mechanism that sustains the struggle. You truly want relief. You genuinely long to be free of this tension. And that sincere longing is exactly what keeps the wheel turning. The desire to escape discomfort becomes another layer of discomfort. The attempt to end the cycle becomes fuel for the cycle. And here, a certain wise voice would say something almost unbearable in its simplicity. You're stuck. Not temporarily. Not conditionally. Completely. You cannot resolve it through effort. You cannot resolve it through non-effort. Trying won't free you. Refusing to try won't free you. There is nothing you can do. And when that lands, not as theory, not as philosophy, but as lived realization, it feels like a dead end. Every strategy collapses. Every method reveals its limits. Every doorway leads back to the same room. You cannot move forward. You cannot retreat. You cannot hover in between. And strangely, this is where something extraordinary begins. Because when every option is exhausted, when every attempt is circled back on itself, when even the cleverest strategy has dissolved, something in you finally stops. Not because you chose to stop. Not because stopping became the next tactic. But because there is literally nothing left to pursue. The engine of self-improvement sputters out. The seeker runs out of destinations. And in that stillness, in that moment of complete fatigue, you may begin to notice something that was always present. Something so close, so immediate, that it was overlooked precisely because you were searching elsewhere. The peace you were chasing was never a destination. It was never waiting at the end of a path. It was never a reward for sufficient discipline, or a prize for perfect surrender. It was the ground beneath your feet the entire time. The quiet backdrop to every experience, including struggle, doubt, striving, frustration, the entire structure, problem and solution, seeker and sought, flawed self and improved self, was a magnificent diversion. Not malicious, not meaningless, but a diversion nonetheless. Like someone spinning in circles trying to catch their own shadow, collapsing in exhaustion, only to realize the shadow was never separate. This was never about acquiring a new technique. Never about mastering a method. Not something to add to your collection of practices. It was about recognition. The recognition that the issue you were trying to solve was not the issue you imagined. The real confusion was the assumption that there was a fixable defect at that level at all. Now, this can sound dismissive. It can sound like someone telling you to relax while you feel overwhelmed. But it isn't that. It's more like discovering that what you believed was a deep, dangerous current is shallow enough for you to stand in. You were never damaged. You were never fundamentally broken. The human predicament, the great tension we all feel, was not something to repair. It was something to understand. And that understanding does not arrive through more striving. Not through sharper techniques. Not through purer intentions. It arrives when you fully, honestly, exhaust yourself. When you recognize, without resistance, that you have been attempting to solve a puzzle that was never meant to be solved. Because the puzzle itself was the message, written in a language you had not yet learned to read. And that quiet recognition, that gentle laying down of inner weapons, took me many years to see clearly. What a wise voice can point toward in a few simple minutes. Not because the truth is complex, but because we are extraordinarily skilled at turning something simple into something endlessly complicated.